But while Ukraine is reeling from the damage of 54 days of devastation in their country, one hit by Ukraine on Russia just a few days ago has landed a body blow that has not only hit the Russian military, but hit the Russian mind and heart as well. I'm talking about this image you see on your screen, which is the first image. These are the first images of the Moskva, Russia's flagship in the Black Sea, that Ukraine says it hit with missiles and sank just 4 days ago. These are the first images to come out. There was complete whitewash of imagery, radio silence from the Black Sea. Nobody knew what the hit warship actually looked like. Now India today has accessed those first videos and images of the stricken ship. Take a look at the sense we made of those first images. An unthinkable image for every Russian. A sight that will sink millions of Russian hearts. Just days after Russia's Black Sea Fleet flagship sank, the first image has emerged of the stricken vessel of war. Once an icon of Russian pride, seen in these final moments last week, listing dangerously to one side after either being hit by Ukrainian missiles or a devastating explosion on board. Let's try and decode this first dramatic image of the stricken 13,000-ton guided missile Russian cruiser. The most obvious is the smoke billowing out of the superstructure, clear signs of fires still blazing below deck. Also notice how the ship is listing dangerously to one side, confirming structural damage from the explosions. If the Moskva was indeed hit by a pair of Ukrainian Neptune missiles, then they appear to have smashed into the ship in this frontal area, just behind where the ship's own P-1000 Vulcan anti-ship missile launchers are located. Notice these gaping holes in the hull of the ship? Some of the strongest evidence that a missile strike is likely what doomed the Moskva. These appear to be impact points for the incoming Ukrainian sea-skimming missiles. There is also clear smoke damage in the rear end or the aft of the ship, suggesting that this photograph was taken after a much larger fire consumed the vessel. The picture of the doomed Moskva has clearly been taken from another Russian vessel, one of many that converged for rescue operations.
While this new image of the damaged Moskva answers many questions about where the ship was hit and where was the damage caused, several questions still remain unanswered.
While this new image of the damaged Moskva answers many questions about where the ship was hit and the kind of damage that was caused, several unanswered questions remain, questions that will hopefully be answered in the days ahead. For instance, how did just 2 anti-ship missiles sink this huge ship? Why is there total silence on the condition of the 510 crew who were reportedly evacuated? Did the Ukrainian missiles cause a fire detonating ammunition on board? If the fire was accidental as Russia claims, why is Russia talking of retaliation? And finally, why are families of the crew on board so conspicuously unheard and unseen? With the Moskva, Russia has lost more than just any military platform. It has lost a piece of its legacy and military heritage. With Mosmi Singh in Dnipro, Ukraine, Bureau Report, India Today. This is something that really hurts Putin and the Russian military, and that's one of the reasons perhaps that Russia has been holding on to its stand that this was an accidental fire on board, because there's a great deal of pride, a great deal of humiliation that will be felt of a ship of this kind actually being attacked. This is a 13,000-ton warship. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the flagship of the Russian Black Sea Fleet. You can see the damage that has been done in this forward area, very close to where this particular cruiser's own anti-ship missiles are located. That is where the missiles appear to have struck. You can see the holes over here. That is where the entry point of the missiles probably are. the entire ship appears to be, listing to the port side, to the left side. It's listing because a great deal of structural damage has also been done to the entire ship. And you can see all of those holes where it is likely the entry points of those missiles. There's a lot of smoke damage in the rear part, the aft part of the ship. There's a lot of smoke damage. The hangar doors of the, of the helicopter hangar are open. The lifeboats are all missing, which means, the people were evacuated like the Russians said. But this image right here tells you the story of what happened on board, and it has added a great deal of weight to Ukraine's claim that this ship was targeted and blown up really by 2 Ukrainian missiles. There are unanswered questions, but there are some questions that these images, first images of the stricken cruiser, have now answered. Let's get a sense of what's the mood about the Moskva is in Russia. We'll also get India Today's defense editor, who is in Kyiv at this point of time. First of all, Elnar Bainazarov is a well-known Russian journalist. He joins me live from Moscow. Abhishek Bhalla is our defense editor. He is in the Kyiv area of Ukraine. Elnar, I'd like to come to you first. These dramatic images of the of the Moskva, just, probably minutes or hours before it went down into the Black Sea, have come out. I just want to get a sense from you, Elnar. There are many unanswered questions at this time, but, how is Russia taking this entire, the way the story is playing out? Because Russia has been holding that this was an accident. Ukraine says it was hit by missiles. Most experts and independent analysts believe that these new pictures appear to suggest that what Ukraine is saying is correct.
Yeah, hello. And in Russia, actually, we have this politics when Russian media and Russian national media outlets are trying to silence this story. And we have the Russian Pervy, or the first channel, who just gave only 11 seconds, less than 1 minute, for this report about the sinking of the ship. And we have the Russian Kremlin spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov, who told that Kremlin saw this video, allegedly, of the Moskva ship sinking, but still he has no confirmations for the information that this ship, this cruiser burning, is really Moskva. And we also have the Russian social networks and people sharing stories of their relatives who went missing on the sank ship. And at the moment, we have reports about 3 dead on the Moskva. And one of them was reported by Radio Liberty, who's recognized as by Russia as a foreign agent media. And we have Russian media, Novaya Gazeta Europe, who spoke with the mother of conscript sailor who was called up for service shortly before the war in Ukraine. And here is what this woman said. She, according to her son, who also went missing, he told that more than 40 people were dead, and that Russian Ministry of Defense told that they must be silenced and not talk with media. And he also told that there are many people who are wounded and missing. And we also have Ukrainian official, who is Alexei Arestovich. He's the advisor of the president of Ukraine. And he stated that he only saw 36 people left alive, no more, from the Moskva. But during the war, during the special military operation, we cannot clearly confirm this information. And regarding the Russian media, we have some pro-war activists, such the main Russian propagandist, Mr. Vladimir Solovyov. And he demanded an explanation from the Russian Ministry of Defense about the sunken missile cruiser Moskva. And these voices are not supported by the PRV channel or other Russian channels, although we have these voices who are asking to tell the truth.
Very, very interesting. Stay with me, Elnar. I also want to bring in India Today's defense editor, Abhishek Bhalla, who's in Kyiv. Abhishek, the Ukrainians have been flaunting the sinking of the Moskva as one of the biggest military victories of any war in a really, really long time, in many, many decades. And these images, most independent experts believe, confirm the Ukrainian claim. What have you been picking up on the ground? Is the Moskva still the biggest story on everyone's minds right now?
Shiv, while there is a lot of mystery around the sinking of Moskva, but the fact remains that, it's a big blow for Russia. Whether it's the Ukrainian military that has sunk it, or it's due to an accident during wartime, it clearly suggests that it's a big blow to the Russians, and that's the sense here in Ukraine as well. Ukraine is very clear that it was their doing and they are taking credit for it, and they are also linking it with the response that has come from the Russians. There has been a huge escalation in the military response from Russia over the last couple of days, and in Ukraine that's been seen as a direct link, as a direct response to the sinking of Moskva by the Ukrainians. And in fact, the kind of response that has come, it's not just limited to a few facilities, near the borders, but just today we've heard of some military facilities being hit as far as Lviv, which is on the western front of Ukraine, close to the Polish border. So this kind of a response in Ukraine is being seen as a direct retaliation because Ukraine has sunk the Moskva.
I'm just going to ask you about that retaliation in a moment, but Elnar, coming back to you, one of the contradictions that have been coming out of Russia since the Moskva sinking, has been Russia persisting with the claim that this was an accidental explosion on board that, that destroyed the ship and ultimately sank it. At the same time, Russia is also talking about a retaliation for what has happened. So there is a sense of why would there be a retaliation if this was an accident? It seems like, talking about a retaliation appears to confirm what the Ukrainians are saying, that this was a combat loss.
Yes, and that's actually the policy of the Russian Ministry of Defense. When we have a lot of versions and none of them really confirmed, but these versions make people to talk and stating that nothing can be confirmed. So this is why we have just not clear appearance, but we have a lot of versions. And this is why Russian, it's media strategy. They're trying to divide people to versions. And we also have the Oryx, who is the military think tank. And they also have a lot of versions. And one of their versions is that the cruiser might be hit by the Bayraktar drone. But this version still needs to be confirmed. So the main version for now is that the cruiser was hit by two shore-launched Neptune anti-ship missiles. Actually, it was also interesting that Moskva might be holding the nuclear weapons, but we still have no confirmation of this information from the Russian Ministry of Defense. So we're waiting, were there any nuclear weapons on Moskva?
Yeah, that's another scary element that we had reported last week. Abhishek, final question to you. All this talk about a retaliatory strikes in the Kyiv area and elsewhere, what is your sense? You're in the Ukrainian capital. You've been reporting from areas where the Russians have pulled back from. But in the wake of what has happened with the Moskva, it appears that all bets are off. There could be fresh attacks in many of these places again.
Yes, Shiv, and that's the sense, and that's the fear amongst people that, it could be all back to square one from where it started. And, there has been a lot of consolidation of the Russian forces north of Kyiv. I traveled to some of those places, from where the initial advancement had taken place from the Belarus border. And there is a lot of talk of the Russian forces getting together once again and a possible counter-attack, because from all these places, the Russians had retreated. I visited Chernihiv yesterday, which is about 156 kilometers north of Kyiv, close to the Belarusian border. And the city had been under siege for nearly 40 days. It's only about a fortnight back that, Russians have retreated. And it's a human catastrophe that has been witnessed over there. People have lost their homes, but they still don't want to go back to their homes. Many of them staying in basements because the fear is that the Russians could be back. And, till that fear is there, things are not going to be back on track the way people in Ukraine want. And they are living with this anxiety day after day.
Abhishek, stay safe to you and Lalit, and thanks very much also to Elnar for being with us on that very valuable perspective on a story that is still very much shrouded in the fog of war that has become so typical of the claims and counterclaims happening between Russia and Ukraine. Meanwhile, as we are about to mark 2 months of this combat, this Russian invasion of Ukraine, India Today's Mosmi Singh is in the Orehov town of Ukraine. She's been reporting from all the areas in the southern and eastern stretches of Ukraine, parts which have seen the most intense fighting and the worst damage. Here's the latest ground report that she sent us. Once again, from the combat zone, you'll see what I'm talking about.
The devastation continues in Ukraine. Putin's military is targeting multiple cities in the country. Orikhiv, which is one of the cities that's faced massive destruction. Victor, a local resident India Today spoke to, shared the horrors he faced. He's lost his beautiful house to the war.
I will show you the entire house. From the road, you can see that the entire drawing room is actually been thrown open. The walls are falling. This is his living room, his bedroom, everything. He's been picking up pieces. It's a holiday today, but Victor has no option. There's no water, there's no electricity, and this is in fact where he sleeps. He sleeps and he cooks. You can see that this is his bed. He shifted his bed, and old man already ailing. This is the face of Ukraine.
They were shelling in the night. I spent the night in the kitchen of my house. It is higher than the other spaces. This is our life. You do not know whether to go to the basement or continue to lie in the kitchen. I'm old. I'm 73 years old. It is like this for everyone.
Tamara says she survived World War II. She claims the Germans then spared their homes, but not the Russians.
How are you feeling?
My daughter lives in Russia. She calls me and asks me to come visit her, but I have dogs and cats in my house. How can I leave my country and my home? In the Second World War, the Germans never bombed houses, but the Russians are doing just that.
The city is facing continuous shelling, but Ukrainian soldiers are putting up a fight.
Even as you hear constant bombardments that are happening on the other side, sir, what is happening?
На данный момент мы наблюдали, как начали в очередне бомбить місто Оріхів, яке немає тут.
In this town is no basic Ukrainian soldier. It's not soldier in this town, but Russian soldier attack this town, attack building people. They must live there. Oh my God! Oh my God! We must go.
We have to go very fast. There is a lot of bombardment that is happening. Plumes of smoke, bombardments, missile attacks is what we see in this in the backdrop.
India Today saw Russian shelling from close quarters.
How far are the Russian troops? Can you ask her how far are the Russian troops? Ooh. So here you can see that the attack is happening. We will have to move, and the Russian troops are very close. यहाँ से बहुत करीब है और हम लोग को यहाँ से निकलना पड़ेगा. हमारे कैमरा पर्सन परमिंदर शर्मा लगातार ये रिपोर्टिंग आपको दिखा रहे हैं और हम लोग के लिए यहाँ पे रहना खतरे से अब खाली नहीं है.
Even schools haven't been spared.
These are just the latest pictures and the first ever that you see of a school that has turned into a nightmare for the authorities, for the people who live here. Glasses all strewn around, and that's the kind of damage that these small towns are facing.
According to local residents, they used to keep a count of the strikes, but after 1,000, they stopped keeping a tally.
Heavy Russian shelling has also led to widespread devastation in the northern Ukrainian city of Chernihiv. For almost 54 days now, this urban center, big metropolitan city, has been under near incessant Russian attack. In India Today's defense editor Abhishek Bhalla is the first Indian journalist team in that city. Take a look. These are the first images you'll be seeing on India Today's cameras.
Homes after homes completely shattered, completely destroyed. Nothing left here. In fact, the residents don't even know if their neighbors are alive, where they were living. That's been the story of several cities in Ukraine. In Chernihiv, the Russian forces made a bloody assault, carrying out missile strikes on several buildings that are completely destroyed. It's going to take a very long time for people to get back to their normal lives. And amid all of this, there is still fear that there could be another offensive launched by the Russians anytime. In Chernihiv, this is home to several people who lost their homes. In this basement, which is being used as a makeshift place to ensure that people have a roof to stay, especially at a time when it's freezing cold outside, it's snowing, it's really difficult to go about your lives. But this is what war has done. It has brought people from various walks of life, young people, children, old people, all here trying to make sure that they can go about their lives in a normal way. It's not easy. The city of Chernihiv was almost under siege for 40 days, and this is a glimpse of what life here is. There are people who are trying to keep themselves busy, and it will take a very, very long time for these people to go back to their homes and lead normal lives, because their homes were completely shattered in that bloody assault from the Russian forces that took place, and how the Russians controlled this area for 40 days. But now at least the Russian forces have moved back, but it's still going to take a long while for these people to get back to their homes. With camera person Lalit Joshi in Chernihiv, Abhishek Bhalla for India Today.
And here's a report that I must warn you is unsettling, but images of war are just that. They're disturbing, they're horrifying, and I urge our viewers not to look away. People who've had their homes destroyed walking past the people they've loved in their hundreds in the city of Mariupol in the southern eastern part of Ukraine. Take a look at this report.